this session is especially relevant because I know that many of you are going to an end for the Campus Life internship and you're looking for a job at the moment. And a lot of you have been working on like marketing for businesses, thinking about your next job opportunity and also building your own portfolio, right? So it would be really relevant for that. So Angus will be running a complimentary workshop for us on creating content that stops scrolling. Let's stop the scroll, actually. So he will be sharing practical insights on content, branding, and how create work that capture people's attention. So with that, please join me in welcoming Angus.
Wow, that was such a lovely introduction. Thanks, Pelly.
No worries.
Very good at that. Yeah, thank you all also for being here and helping me to practice a really important skill for me, which is actually talking about what I do in a way that's practical, relevant, and useful, and can be like understood and transferred to your own lives. So it's not just you learning, I'm also learning in this process as well, just so that we feel like we're peers. I'm not necessarily like someone who's leagues ahead, okay, in that sense. So Creative Frontier, yes, that's me. It's a Creative Frontier workshop. I hope you like my branding. It's very like nature. It's very like we're on the edges, you know, frontier. So pay attention to the way that kind of the workshop is designed as well. And you sort of be like, give me an assessment of whether you think the name and the branding lines up as well. In terms of the workshop, as Pearly said, content that stops the scroll. Thankfully, this is something I actually do have experience in, not just for clients, which have been, some of them have been social media influencers that wanted to become more of an authority in their space and not just somebody who gets, you know, a lot of views on Instagram. And I helped them break into LinkedIn, capturing their virality tactics that they don't do on Instagram, but turning that into a system for LinkedIn instead. And then for others, it's like national community brands like the Marketing Club. That's a big one that I do all of the LinkedIn and social Instagram content for. And that's about how do you keep a community that has over 17,000 members in it and more like interested and clicking on the post. Like that's a lot of responsibility. And you might be thinking, whoa, if I had to make content for a page that has that many followers, like what would I do? And you would potentially start to overthink, but it's a lot easier than it sounds. So we're going to hopefully just dispel some of that fear here and focus on right now, we're just trying to entertain to the amount of connections that we have on LinkedIn currently. Okay. And we're going to kind of imagine then, well, if I can do it for those people, it's the same principles for 17,000 people, just at scale. So a little bit, tiny bit about me, because we have precious few time. I won't just read what's on the page, but Creative Frontier came about because I did a Bachelor of Arts at the University of Melbourne. I did a creative writing degree, and that was cool. I learned how to tell stories, which I was already doing, but I learned it at a tertiary level and the history of it and all of that jazz. But it gave me zero skills in terms of how to make money from that. And that's something I very much had to learn on my own. And so I started my first business, which was in events for creative writers. That turned into an independent publishing company. That was a really fun journey where I learned about business, where I did the BYOB course as well. And then at the end of that, I was like, actually, I'm practicing my skills in the wrong format. And then I changed to Creative Frontier, a micro agency in brand strategy and narrative-led marketing. So that's me. I'm all about how do I keep doing what I love, but make money from it, basically. Now, key outcomes of today, obviously, to make you go viral. Now, what I've got there, I've just superimposed an image of my impressions across the past year, because I think it sets the tone really well of when you do write content that stops the scroll. I mean, look, that line is literally straight. That is a vertical line that, you know, I'm not going to hit you with like the 10 points of success or anything cringy like that. I'm just going to show you exactly what I did to make that happen. But you can see here that it was steadily growing before that because I was posting consistently and I was practicing what I'm going to talk to you about today. And then I had one amazing hit. Boom, that was like, it was 40,000 impressions. And then I was just posting, right? And that post kind of did most of the carrying on that arc there. And then again, I had another vertical shoot when I wrote the second post that I'm going to show you today as well. And that shot me up again. Who knows where we'll be by this time next year. But at the end of the day, right, vanity metrics are not everything, but it is important if what you do is called marketing and eyeballs are what you're trying to get. So just to put some really clear objectives to what the outcomes are, we want you to feel like you can write stronger hooks, like you can keep readers engaged, like you can write different types of posts to a different structure, kind of understanding some guidance there, because not everything should be like 2 sentences, and not everything should be a giant essay. And then just using call to actions, CTAs naturally, right? Pairing the right call to actions with the right type of content that you're creating, and how you lead that in, whether that should be an explicit CTA or whether the way you've written the post naturally encourages a response. So we're going to have a few, not a few, just like one kind of activity that involves writing, but a few other interactive activities throughout. But just a couple of ground rules. When people are talking, like we're there to listen and give them the floor. So it's like listening and paying attention, and maybe using those emojis to react if you really like what they said. The writing activity we will do, just be focused, lock into that. So just if there's any distractions around at the time, get rid of them so you can focus on the writing. And then ultimately, as I said at the start, like I'm open to learning from you in my presenting skills. Just be open to what I say and what each other says for new ideas and feedback. So just to get us thinking, I want you all to open up LinkedIn, whether that's on your computer or your phone, and I want you to just look at the last post that you did. All right, this is just a visual one. We're not going to write anything. And when you're looking at it, I just want you to think, what was the hook you wrote? Can you find a hook? Was there a call to action? When did you personally want to stop reading the post? That's a really good question to ask. And then before that point, what kept you reading up to that point? And so just sort of take a moment, find that post, read it, and then I'd love for you to also sort of put those things in the chat, or come off mute and tell me as well if you can see a hook, if you have a CTA. And if you don't as well, tell me that too, because that's going to show the potential for growth. So who wants to be honest about their LinkedIn post with me?
I can go.
Mm-hmm. Go for it, Pearly.
So I did a repost last night. So Social Star posted a post about me getting the employee of the month. So I reposted it on my LinkedIn with my personal reflection. And I think it does have a clear hook, which is like a bit of an honest thought. Is it weird that I wasn't as excited getting employee of the month this time? Question mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Call to action, not really, because it's kind of like perspective or sharing reflection. So I don't put any CTA there. When did you want to stop reading? It's a bit hard to judge that because I wrote it, I rewrite it, or like I reread it many times to make it good before I post it. So I kind of like.
So if you were somebody reading that post, let's say somebody in your audience who decided to then like it and react to it and comment, when they discovered that this post was a celebration post, right? Do you think, like, just imagine you're them, do you think they would have kept reading to the end, or do you think they would have skimmed because they're like, okay, it's a celebration post, happy for them, let me just quickly jump into the comments and write congrats, but I haven't finished reading the post? Do you reckon that's kind of what some people would have done?
Yeah, perhaps, or they may be not hooked enough with my hook to actually click the read more. Yeah. Or they may, read the hook, click read more, and then look at the bottom of the post to see what is the end of it.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to focus on. It's like people often, if there's an image, they'll look at the image, they'll read the hook first, they'll see the image, they'll press see more if they want. And unfortunately, sometimes they can just skip straight to the bottom and go kind of, okay, like I know the start, I know the end, do they make sense? Do I want to comment on this? And they can just kind of skip the whole middle section. And you're like, but that's where like the meat was. So you've got to really understand how efficient and signposty you kind of need to be in what you're writing if you are going for attention. We've got time for one more LinkedIn post breakdown if anyone wants to do one. Thank you very much, Pearly, for sharing. Do I have one more volunteer?
I can share. I did a It was something I did at uni. It was like I got a certificate of achievement for one of my projects, and like how I started at the start, it was I guess the hook. It was a project that shaped where I can take my marketing career. I guess it's not very clear, like it doesn't really particularly draw you in, but I was trying to be reflective of what I had done. And then again, because I think it was a reflective thing, I don't think there's as much of a call to action, but I've got the image there too. So then I could agree with the fact of the people going just scrolling down to the image and not particularly reading through. Like I could understand that side of things. So yeah, like maybe the content itself could easily get skipped over looking back.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good reflection. And I think, reflection. And on that point, right, like what we're talking about, that's 2 reflective posts, because that is the most common type of post to put on LinkedIn, because it's a good one. You know, something has happened and you want to write about it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we want to learn how to package it in a way that makes it relevant to people who weren't there. You know, that's kind of the point of social media. That's the point of, like, especially in events, writing about an event is something a lot of people do in a way that is not engaging and feels exclusive. It's like, well, I wasn't there and you're writing about it, you know, as somebody who was there, I can't connect to that. And now we start to get into like, okay, writing about a reflective post, adding in some key takeaways into the body, right? We start to look at it from that perspective. Okay, what did you learn that you can write in a sentence format for the readers to go, hey, that makes sense for me too. Great. Thank you for that context. So we've got 3 posts now. We're going to spend a little bit just like looking at these 3s, and I've nicknamed them the viral monster, the Mikey meme, and celebration. So let's look at this guy. I'm going to switch tabs over to it. And you can actually read this just on there. I want you to just read through it. It's not about the opinions of it, because I'm totally fine whether you agree or disagree, but that's not the point. I just want you to read through it, though, as a piece of content, and then let's talk about it. So I'm just going to give you 2 minutes. Put done in the chat when you finish reading as well. How are we traveling? Who's finished it or towards the end?
It's maybe the 3rd time I read it.
The 3rd time. Yeah, it sort of did the rounds, didn't it? So I think this is a really strong example of a lot of the things we're going to talk about and then practice ourselves. But I'm going to throw to you first to tell me, first of all, is there a hook? Now, disregard the edit part, disregard that, because that was added later. The post starts here. So is there a hook here? And there's no trick questions, so you can say yes or no.
I think it is the hook.
None of their business, really.
Yeah, well, where is it?
They jumped it.
The whole sentence.
Yeah. Okay. Why? Like, because it's not a traditional hook, right? But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, because I think that is the topic that was paying attention by a lot of people at that time. So it is timely at during that period of time where people like interested to read a lot on this topic.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. The hook here, this is like quite a sophisticated one in that sense of I haven't gone like 10 facts about this or that, or like why you're a terrible person if you think the CTT changes are bad, right? You know, stuff like that. That would be a more traditional hook. That would be kind of immature, first of all. So I didn't do that approach, but I did use a keyword like taxes at the time that topic was super hot. So people see taxes and they go, oh, somebody else is giving a hot take about the capital gains tax, right? I'm also being super vulnerable in that opening line about my family history and my upbringing, right? So people go, oh, this is like a super vulnerable story and it's about a controversial topic. What's next? So it's kind of an implicit hook. When you sort of practice hooks a few times, you can learn how to kind of weave them in more organically, which is important for more narrative style posts, which this is, because this is not a sales pitch, which should be a bit more of an explicit hook. This is a narrative brand building post. We continue down, you can see the format, like I'm doing short paragraphs, right? You've seen plenty of posts on LinkedIn that are like one sentence and space, one sentence, space. That works, but honestly, it's better if you do that format and then with just a little bit more meat on each sentence if you're doing a story like this. I'm using second tense, you paid your taxes, so I'm addressing the person directly. So they feel like I'm speaking directly to them. Again, that's intentional. I don't do that for every post because I don't need every single person to feel like I'm addressing them. And you do want to be careful with that because some people are like, you probably spend all your time in DMs and not getting any deals. It's like, well, maybe I'm not a business owner and, you're wrong. You don't understand me. So you've got to be careful when you employ second tense and when you should use first tense as well. And then I'm talking about this. I'm talking about what I blah, 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 what their taxes have done for me. I keep bringing it back to what the core issue is, which is taxes for the sake of the argument. And then I attach a fact down here. So we've gone personal, personal, personal. By this point, these people are then thinking, but where's the evidence? Like, is this backed up by any numbers? Because this is still a professional platform. So people want to know what evidence you're using for the argument you're putting forward. So I go the quality of life index here, etc. Socialist, my use of the word socialist welfare state did spark a few comments in the chat, which was funny because socialist, communism, capitalism, right? They're all hot words as well and have been for like a century. So that's a good way as well. The words you choose, really think about that. And also Centrelink. People have very strong feelings about Centrelink and the people on it as well, positive and negative. So you see how I started with a hook up here about me personally connecting to a controversial topic. And then I kept bringing up other keywords that evoke strong feelings as well to keep the emotions of the reader high, as well as directly addressing them. I don't give them any chance to kind of cool down. I've designed this post to just keep provoking them as they keep reading so that they do keep going, right? Bear in mind, I also wrote this in 10 minutes and I wasn't really thinking about like, I don't want people to get provoked by this. I'm just writing my honest thoughts here. And that's kind of why there's absolutely no chill in it. And then I put one of the strongest lines that I want to communicate on its own separately, right? Just like this one here, that one's a single line separate. This one is also a single or two very short sentences together because those are the highlights. And you need that as well in a post. You need some highlight information because if you let's say you made all of this a body paragraph, then I'm going to read the hook here. I'm going to skip the body paragraph because it's too long and I'm going to jump straight down to there. Now, if we did that, there's also no picture to this post. So that was also interesting to see how you'll always be told to add a photo to your post. I do recommend that, but when you write something like this, you probably don't need to be honest. It might actually be a distraction. But let's say we cut out the body paragraph. Let's just read the hook and the bottom. So we go, in Australia, my mum was a direct beneficiary of people paying taxes, which allowed her to raise 2 children only a bit below the poverty line instead of all the way below it. if the capital gains taxes upset you, get a grip on your humanity. That's quite a jump. I kind of need people to read the post to get it. Otherwise, you're like, I have no idea what that post was about. So this kind of post is a little risky. You absolutely do need them to read the middle for it to land. But I did that, as you can see, 268 reactions, 55 comments, 6 reposts. All of those were favorable. None of those people were reposting me and saying my opinions were wrong. So I mean, people were in the comments, but also supporting me. But you can see how this got a response. So this is a controversial, topical example of a post that landed. The opportunities that came out of it, because this is probably the question that goes in your mind. Okay, you get almost 40,000 impressions, you get all this. Where does the virality take you besides some very pretty numbers? Well, for me, first of all, it gave me some really easy content. I posted about this as a case study several times because it was relevant and it was interesting. So I converted the outrage into a case study. So you can think about it from a content perspective. It also got me a free book from a thought leader who was like, love your stuff. I want to send you my book for free so that you can read it and be inspired. So it built relationships with people who agreed and liked it, right? So that second one is gold. When a post can instantly build you that level of relationship and trust with someone, like you've done something right. So that's one of the main benefits of virality, is how quickly it builds trust. Because for something to go viral, usually it's incredibly like strong in terms of the feeling it evokes. And so they just feel really aligned with you very quickly, or really against you. So this was probably the first post I ever did that got some haters. That comes with that. But honestly, who cares? You know, like, do you care back in high school or university when somebody in your class didn't really like you? You know, like, not really, because how much impact do they have on your life if they say one mean thing? It's just like in the comments section. One person was like, I think you should just say that you're thankful instead of complaining about, you know, us who are upset about CGT. So I literally just responded back in the comments. I was like, thank you for your taxes. You know, like, just play along. Yeah.
When you're actually getting haters, that basically means you're getting famous. Because if you're not getting famous, then no.
That's right. That's right. If you are getting lots of views like this and there's no opposition, right? We'll change the word from haters to opposition. You're not clarifying the ground that you stand on. You're people pleasing and you're being viral, which is worse than upsetting people and being viral, because people still don't know where you stand. Has anyone seen Kumar on Instagram? The retired Indian accountant from New York who blew up on social media. Look it up. He went super viral really, really, really quickly. And he was offering nothing. Like, there was nothing to stand on other than his opening reel was, I'm declaring war on finance bros, right? Which was a funny joke. And finance bros are the brunt of jokes these days. But he wasn't actually offering anything. And so everyone was just following along and being like, okay, let's just see what happens. When he eventually tells us what it is that he's offering people, you'll probably see his follower count start to shed, because now people will know what he stands for. Whereas right now he doesn't. And so virality of that kind is a good top of funnel item where everyone can connect to it and will probably hit follow, like, comment, get involved in the hype. But then as soon as he starts to narrow down what it is he offers, then that moves down the funnel to the next stage. This is a post, if we apply it to the funnel, it's like pre-product, basically. It's a pre-product post if we want to put it in that context. Last note on this one, and this is the longest we're going to sit on a post, which is just like a lot to unpack here. The reason I added the edit when it got to, like, I think 20,000 impressions and about 150 reactions and stuff like that, I added that because this is on brand for me, and because I was making sure that the discussion was controlled by me in the comments section. So before I added that, people were reading it and, you know, putting out their opinions and stuff like that in the comments. Great. But when I saw that it was getting serious traction, I then decided to just take the reins a bit. And so for everybody else new who's going to see it, because I knew this post had some mileage on it, to go, yeah, I wanted them to read that and go, okay, I've seen the impact that this post has had. And I've taken a centrist approach of going, love everyone's contributing. I understand this has hit a nerve. I didn't apologize, because then you give ground and you weaken your position. But I did, I mean, sometimes you should apologize, right? But I don't think this post was necessary for that. And I just sort of was like, you know, connected into the authentic angst behind the post. And like, I'm a little embarrassed. Whoops, I didn't know I wrote a viral piece of content. My bad. You know, just a bit of like softening their reaction to it, because I felt that was more important. So that's just a little clever use of going in and editing a post to control the narrative if it's getting out of hand. Cool. So absorb that context. Let's get back to the next one, which is the Mikey meme. This one is my personal favorite. It's 2 lines. Like, I just wrote 2 sentences and a very nice picture of the Mikey. So just read, actually, I'll just read it out to you. To all Melburnians, I offer my deepest condolences. The dream is over today. Time to start paying for the world's largest tram system again, I guess. And this got 61 reactions, 47 comments, so almost like a 1-to-1 ratio, which is kind of crazy, and 10,000 impressions. Like, don't ask me how. But it's funny. You're like, okay, this is a bit silly. But again, I posted this the day after free transportation ended. So timing again was perfect. And it's localized. The hook is there because I'm saying who this is for. This post is for people in Melbourne, or it's for people who like to make fun of Melbourne, you know. So it's a universal post. I'm saying I offer my deepest condolences. The dream is over today. This hook is like super serious. They're like, did someone die? What happened? And then I've done this space here so that you shouldn't be able to see this second sentence until you press see more. If I've done the structuring correctly. So people would have seen this, they would have seen the picture, they would have seen the see more button. It reveals, and then they see that it's one more line and it says time to start paying for the world's tram system again, I guess. And so what I've done there is I've used the structure of LinkedIn to seed a joke where I'm hiding the punchline. Right, so that's why, if you didn't know, that's why people do these gaps, so that they can make sure LinkedIn is hiding that text behind the see more button, because it's going to make it funnier or more impactful when they click it, right? So that's why I did that. Also, that increases kind of like the click rate as well on the post, because they have to click the button to see more. So it's good for metrics and the algorithm. People will say when they have to click on the post, it tells LinkedIn that, oh, people are engaging. People are seeing what's there, even though it's 1 extra sentence. So that's just a little peek under the hood of how the algorithm works, but then also the power of humor to get a crowd. And yeah, the comments were like, and talking about what do the inspectors do when they can't find anyone, people defending the new change, like I think half price is still pretty competitive, people being like, oh, there's Julia from Social Star. Talking about, you know, I've become so used to not bringing my mic around, and now I fear I'm going to forget it and cop a fine. You know, I'll have to check in with her and see if she has gotten fined. And then, you know, stuff like that, just people getting in on the joke. So this kind of post is a lot like the other one, and then it sparked a cultural moment. But this one allowed people to get in on the joke, join in on the humor, have a laugh on this very serious app that we're all on. Whereas in the other one, people were getting in and writing mini theses because they were like, I have to put my opinion here because this person has just told me that if I have an issue with the budget, I'm like less human. That's not quite what I said. I said, get a grip on your humanity, like overcome your greed was basically what I was inferring. But people were like defensive. Whereas this one, they were like, oh, come on, I can't let him have the last laugh with this one. It's too good to let pass. So those are 2 very different posts for the same effect. Again, this is top of funnel. Like, I'm not converting anyone to a sales tactic here, but we're talking about our personal brand in this workshop. We're not talking about for a company or a client where it's a bit different. And to be honest, those posts, it's difficult to make them perform this good anyway, because the algorithm knows that you're posting for a business or knows that you're trying to sell something for a specific product. So those just are more difficult to make perform really well. But for personal brand items, these sorts of posts, great. It's establishing what your opinions are, what you stand for to a very wide group of people. and bringing in those numbers of connections, followers, because they are different, and teach the algorithm, people want to listen to this person, I should show more people to this person. So yeah, more what you're trying to convert here, if we're thinking about what's the value of the return on investment of posting on LinkedIn, we're more looking at relationships that you're building, follower loyalty. You know, are people starting to see you as an authority on the subjects that you write about and want to stay? You know, pay attention to, as the more you post, who's still commenting, who's still liking every post. You want to start to identify who is here for the whole experience and who's just here every now and again for certain posts that you do, and really start to apply that social media marketer eye to your own feed. Great. And then the last post that will sit in, I won't spend too much time on it because you know this format. This is about getting married. So this was, I basically just shown you my 3 top performing posts. The first one was 40,000 impressions. The next one was 10,000. This was one I wrote at the start of the year, 4.3K, still very good, but in comparison to the others, kind of pathetic, right? But that is actually a very good outcome of a post like this. High engagement with reactions, 14 comments, lovely picture, if I do say so myself. And then the writing, so this is where the writing becomes quite good. It's what I mean is important, sorry. The hook, there's not really a hook. I'm just saying, hey, I got married. You know, after 2 years of entrepreneurship, I got hitched. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, what does spending 2 years in entrepreneurship have to do with getting married? That's kind of the hook there. Of people are going, oh, he's put together 2 topics that don't make sense together. I'm curious of how he's going to explain that one. I don't know if I do explain it in this post. I'm pretty sure I don't. So that's actually just a fake hook, right? If you kept reading because of that, I tricked you. But that's another trick. So I go and I kind of go on the, okay, we're Mr. and Mrs. Clark now. And, you know, in today's age, do you take the last name? Do you not? That can be a controversial discussion. So that's kind of the real hook. There are people going, oh, okay, is he going to talk about that? Is this going to reveal his personal politics? And so they keep reading, and I turn that discussion, that could be a controversial post if I wanted to, and I wouldn't do this because it's not my values, but I could have gone like, you know, for example, why women should take the last name of the man they're marrying, right? Super outdated, controversial opinion that honestly probably would have done like significant harm to my personal brand. But you can imagine some people are probably thinking, is that the angle is going to go down? So that's another trick hook. What I do instead is I talk about the etymology of the last names. So I talk about the origin of the last names there in a really kind of on brand, you know, Angus taking us on another story, history lesson, which he's often to do. And it was really story driven and very like, you know, again, another vulnerable post. And I got a lot of comments from clients and from people who like, I found it really interesting, that post that you were writing about, because names are a pretty universal topic. Like, what does your name mean? Or, you know, it's just like asking somebody what their star sign is, or, you know, what's your tarot card reading, and stuff like that, right? So that lands. And it's just a way to show where the middle of this post was where the great stuff was, because I didn't put a clear call to action at the bottom of the post. I didn't explain the middle of the post at the bottom. I put the really good stuff in the middle. So posts like this, like your reflective posts that we talked about before, you want to open with a hook that tells them what it is, but in a fun way, in a way that keeps them reading, like what angle are they going to take here? But most of it sits in the middle, and it's mastering how to write the middle. So it's making use of paragraph structure, key lines. In this, the middle, I do a bunch of just sort of sentences, one after the other, with no line break, because I want them to read it together, but quickly, and not make the post too long either, because depending on the length of a post does also deter them. When they press see more and they can't see the bottom of the post off their phone and they have to scroll, they're like, oh no, how long is this post? The length of something can force them to scroll past as well. Whereas most of these, decent length. A little bit long usually, but that's also my personal brand, and people who are following me know that I usually write slightly longer posts, and that's what they're here for as well. So with all that said, let's do some writing. So jumping back to, where am I? Here we are, my presentation. We'll skip over this. This is just philosophy, basically. But I will pause on this very briefly. When you do write content, think about your creative philosophy as part of your professional brand. That being, think of a single word that you want to be able to attach to your personal brand professionally, right? So for me, that word is storyteller. I want to be seen as a storyteller. So my creative philosophy, which just means the way that I make content, must reflect storytelling. Does that make sense? So just think about that single word for you. And that word is allowed to change. That is something that is not set in stone, but you need to have a starting point. Think very briefly what yours is. On generative AI, it's fine to use to write, first of all. Like, things have gotten better. Don't use ChatGPT, it's still trash. Claude is a bit better. ChatGPT's strength is in image generation now, which is interesting if you can give it really good context and a good prompt. But Claude is where, if you feed it some great context about yourself, it picks up on your tone a lot better and writes a little bit more like a human. But don't rely on it 100%, you know, and I've sort of got that. There was a slide back there, I must have hidden it, that has like a scale, and kind of just think about the percentage to which, when you're writing content, how much of it is you? You know, is it like 68% you writing it and the rest of it is Claude or AI? Or is it 97% AI as well? Because that also it is noticed. You know, heck, people might even just associate your very human writing with AI anyway. So you can't win in some cases, but do think about that and how that affects your personal brand. LinkedIn do's and don'ts for very quick dot points here. You've got some questions. We talked about photos. Make sure it's spell checked and fact checked. That's a great use of AI. Eye-catching title, hook. That's what we're talking about there. And we've looked at a few hooks. Knowing the brand is a key one. So know yourself and how you want to be perceived, and then the audience and how they perceive you. And if there's any work that you need to do to adjust how people are perceiving you, or whether you know that they're already there and they understand you exactly the way that you would like to be understood, and that will also affect your content as well. So if you know that your post is going to go viral, which is incredibly hard to predict, but let's just say you do, then you would probably write it a bit differently, because you know you're going to be attracting a lot of new people who have no touch point with your brand beforehand. So just stuff to keep in mind. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. I know you guys know that stuff already. So creative writing, let's take a moment to do some writing. So we're going to spend 6 minutes, I'd say, give or take, writing a hook, writing a post, I mean. We're going to do a strong hook. We're going to play a little bit with structure. Feel free to type this as well or handwrite it, your preference. And it only needs to be like 5 lines. Just pick a simple topic. Let's just take your day that you had today. So think about your work day or whatever you've done. Maybe it's a holiday. And, you know, how are you going to make that interesting? We're going to take the examples that we've looked at, and we're going to turn whatever you did today into a LinkedIn post that I want to like, comment, and then repost. That's the challenge, is to make me feel inspired enough to like it, comment on it, and repost it to my feed. And if I think it passes the test, then maybe I'll do it. So that's starting with the hook. Think about the hook, because that's number one. You want to think about how the post should end as well. Think about the hook and the ending of the post as one entity. They're basically 2 sides of the same coin. That can be an easy starting point. And then think about the middle. What is the bridge that you have to build to get me from start to finish? And then don't waste time finding a picture, but maybe write in a caption in brackets what the picture would be attached to the copy that you're writing. And then for structure, just take the line breaks, like that one. You know, just do the 1 sentence line break, 1 sentence line break, because that's a good one. Yeah, five sentences thereabouts. So don't go crazy. I'm going to give you 6 minutes, and I'll write one as well. Any questions? Just ask. as you're finishing up now, feel free to, don't send it into the chat yet, but we will send them into the chat as well if you've typed them. So just add the finishing touches, start to wrap up, and then we're going to share what we wrote. So we've got just 1 more minute. Okay, we'll stop the clock there. How are people feeling? Was that stressful? What do people feel like they did a good job? Was it easy writing about your day in a LinkedIn lens? All right, so who wants to go first?
I started mine, but then it's less than, it's not really my day, but then it just my like an opening of something that I want to do for my personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
put it in
a
the
personal
chat
tag.
if you're ready. Just put it in the chat and we'll read it.
Yeah, I have a hook here though, so I'll put it in.
And then I reckon we'll go around the room and we'll put everybody's in the chat one by one. I used to think I had to have a very unique or vulnerable story to tell to build my personal brand. That's a good hook. That's a good hook because I'd want to see, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? That's true. Do I need a trauma bond to get people to read my post? People do think that. It's a valid question. Perfect. Okay. Jasmine, do you want to put what you wrote in the chat?
Yeah, sure. I kind of had mine's not really about my day either, but I'm going away in a few weeks, so it's been on my mind, and it's just like catching up on work and that kind of thing. So I used a little bit of generative AI to help me, but I mostly wrote it out first, and then I got it to like clean it up a little bit. But this is what I have.
That's a good use of AI. You did like the inspiration, the context, and then you fed it. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Should you feel, I'm going to read it out, sorry. Or would you like to read it?
No, you can read it. That's fine.
Should you feel guilty for taking time off? That's the hook. I'm going away in a few weeks, and as excited as I am, I can't help but feel a little guilty about leaving work behind. Relatable. Even though I've been reassured that everything will be okay. All good, Joy. All good. I hope you got something out of that. The recording will be available. Even though I've been reassured that everything will be okay, it's still easy to feel like stepping away means letting people down. But I'm learning this is exactly what teams, buddies, and support systems are for. That's a nice uplifting message. I'm feeling emotions. I want to keep reading. In some work cultures, taking time off can feel frowned upon. In Australia, we are generally more relaxed about it, but that doesn't mean the guilt always disappears. So it's culturally relevant. Great. Finishes on a statement. Rest is important. Time away gives us space to recharge, reset, and come back better. Would you feel guilty taking time off, or do you think we need to normalize it more? That's pretty good. I think that post would actually perform well. You should post that. Yeah. So you should post that. That ticks all the boxes. That's doing what it does. Like, it's got those emotional beats in the middle that are really important. That's the only reason that people keep reading is if like, am I feeling something?
Yeah.
So that's good.
Cool.
And yeah, clear call to action that's going to drive comments, and people feel qualified to comment on that post as well. That can sometimes be what holds people back, is do they feel qualified to even comment on the post? So the more universal it is, the easier that feels. Amazing.
Cool.
Do I pronounce it Kathy? How do I say, is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct.
Amazing. Would you like to share what you wrote?
Yeah, I'll just paste it on the chat. I also use a little bit help from AI, but first I wrote down what idea, my main idea, then I told it to paraphrase it. So
Perfect, perfect.
it's
Guys, don't say it like it's a guilty habit. All right. The guilt in your voice is really obvious. It's fine. It's fine. Today is one of those days where I suddenly feel the need to clean everything. Yeah, I feel that. I also, in the middle of a really important task, want to go clean all of a sudden and not do the task. After catching up with a friend and getting back home, I started by tidying up my room. Then I headed to the kitchen to make lunch, and even though it was already fairly clean, I found myself wiping down the bench tops and mopping the floor. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was cleaning the living room as well. It's funny how some days you have zero motivation to do any cleaning, and on other days, you just can't stop once you get started. Does anyone else get these random bursts of cleaning energy, or is it just me? So I think that's good. I think like you've got a good CTA, good hook. The middle is fun and engaging. Like I was smiling reading it because I'm like, you know, this is very relatable. I can imagine myself in this situation. I think what you need to add to make it more fitting for LinkedIn, like get a touch more engagement. Like I'm not saying you need to add key takeaways because it's cleaning, but maybe something that ties it to the professional context, like, you know, in brackets, I really should have been working on that marketing plan, you know, or something like that. Even if it wasn't true, but don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Just add something that connects it to the audience in the context that it's being posted on. This is a great post for Instagram, and like to convert this into a reel of you speaking to the camera for Instagram. Works great for that. It's almost ready for LinkedIn. It just needs that professional link, if that makes sense. Perfect. Nathan, what have you got for me?
Okay. Yep. Give me a second. Let me copy it.
I think so far you guys have got good content posts. Those are ready to go. Add a picture on those, a little bit of editing, and you're sweet. So you're welcome for giving you a really good LinkedIn post. Now for Nathan, we've got, what would you like to buy for lunch if you only have $7 in your bank account? Okay, I'm being challenged. I'm being challenged to budget. I can also answer that question. It would absolutely be the deals from KFC. They're like really cheap. On Wednesday, I'm feeling hungry and want to eat some good food. However, due to some financial difficulties or restraints, I somehow only have $7 in my bank account. Real. On this day, I consider doing a fast since I have no money today. However, since today, I would do a bit of studying, so I decided to buy some food to satisfy my hungry stomach. In my mind, I have several options like buying ready meals or a Subway 6-inch. I would usually prefer Subway 6-inch food since it's tasty and a bit healthy. I would prefer Subway since it is healthy and has a bit of salad, even though I hate eating vegetables. So as a response to my list of potential foods, I swing to another pendulum. I want to eat at McDonald's, which is not really healthy compared to the other options in my mind. But I like to eat the fries and drink Frana. I really believe that I made the right choice because the food is tasty and pleasurable. But that's my opinion and choice for the day. So on the whole, I think the feedback that I gave to Kathy applies here as well. Good hook. I think the hook can be tightened. Like, what would you buy if you only had $7? You can actually just strip it back to that much. And then these paragraphs that you have here, these three, good, like they're building a story. You can bring them down probably to about 2 short sentences each. So you can just be like, I was hungry this week and I wanted to eat some good food, but remember the $7 that I have, question mark. And then you could go, okay, $7 doesn't buy much. Maybe I'll just fast, but I was really hungry. There's so many options out there. And then here you go, Subway. It's, you know, healthy, quotation marks, but, you know, I don't like vegetables. And then you could say McDonald's, on the other hand, fat and greasy and delicious, right? You could kind of summarize those arguments in 2 short sentences there. And then you take it home with, you know, I believe I made the right choice. And you could use the burger emoji to indicate that you chose McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
Think about visual storytelling as well. And that's going to be like a little joke. So people who get it, and they will, that's not a complicated joke. They'll get it and they'll go, nice choice, you know, without confessing that you went to McDonald's. And then your call to action, just to finish off, Pearly, I know I'm at time. But your call to action, I think what you've done here is a lot like the first post I showed you, which was that CTA is implicit in the story of which fast food joint am I going to eat from? What are the merits? So I think you can kind of get away with that, except I think instead of saying that's my opinion and choice for the day, be a bit more clear about like, you know, I don't regret my decision, because then that inspires a bit more of a, you know, hot conversation going on in the comments. Yeah. So I didn't say how to tie it to LinkedIn, but I think you can figure that part out. But those were great examples of applying what we went through today in a very simple way. It didn't take long, did it? Especially with a bit of AI help and your context. Kind of all we were going to go through next if we had time, but it's not essential, was just kind of some of the science of how I do what I do. So the hero's journey, and then not breaking these down one by one, but just clarifying that voices trust here. That's number one. Just think about your voice and how people know you and how they should be able to imagine you when they read your content as well. Because everything you do starts with your voice on how it's written and how it sounds if I read it out loud. But yeah, I'll pause for questions. That's kind of the end. Thank you for that. I hope that was good.
Love it. I think it was a really practical workshop, Angus. Thank you so much for your time. I hope everyone have some ideas to take away for building the personal brand or the content that you're helping your client.
Perfect.
Any questions you guys have for Angus before we wrap up?
All good, all good. Perfect. Well, if there's no questions, all good. Feel free to send me an email as well. I think very quickly, I'll just show you can actually book a free 20 minutes with me if you do want to talk about your personal brand. And also I've got a panel on tomorrow night, which I think Pelly's already circulated. But just a reminder, if you're kind of really interested in how do I actually take my creative skills into not necessarily freelance, but also just like into the next agency, the next chapter, as you are kind of at this career intersection, that could be helpful as well. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Feel free to take a photo of this if you want to get it later. But yes, that is it from me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angus.